I cannot believe you people actually showed up. You will receive nothing, absolutely nothing.
Read it again, the lawyer said. All my great-grandchildren? The room went silent when they realized every child standing there was black. The will is read in a quiet room where the air feels heavier than it should. Leather chairs, polished wood, framed photos of a man who built his life brick by brick. The family sits upright, dressed in black, eyes sharp with expectation. They came for numbers. For land, for control. They did not come for this. The lawyer pauses, eyes moving slowly across the room. His voice is calm, careful, almost gentle. Everything goes to my great-grandchildren. A breath is held. A few smiles appear. Heads nod. Calculations begin. Then the question arrives. Soft but dangerous. And who are the great-grandchildren? The door opens. 4 children walk in. Holding hands, nervous, curious, brown skin glowing under the chandelier light, big eyes taking in a room that suddenly feels cold. No one speaks. The smiles collapse. Faces stiffen. Something ugly stirs beneath polished manners. These are the only great-grandchildren, the lawyer says quietly. The silence is no longer polite. It is stunned, and in that moment, the family realizes they never really knew the man whose name is on the will. His name was Henry Caldwell, a man known in town as disciplined, reserved, and predictable. He wore the same coats for decades, ate breakfast at the same diner every morning, donated to the same causes every year. People thought they understood him. They were wrong. Henry grew up in a small town where rules were never written down but always enforced. He learned early which doors opened for him and which stayed closed for others. As a boy, he watched his father run a business that thrived on quiet exclusions. Nothing loud, nothing obvious, just a system that worked for some and not for others. Henry learned the language of silence before he learned math. He went to college, built a company, married young, lost his wife early, buried himself in work, had one son, Thomas, who grew up with comfort but not curiosity. Henry noticed things Thomas did not. He noticed who cleaned the offices at night and who never made eye contact during meetings. He noticed who was thanked publicly and who was corrected privately. He noticed how easily the world rewarded some people for effort and punished others for the same. He did not speak about it. He observed. Years later, when Henry was already gray, his son brought home a woman. She was warm, smart, black. She laughed easily and asked Henry questions no one ever had, not about money, about his childhood, about his mother, about what he believed made a life meaningful. Henry felt something shift. The marriage did not last. Pressure came from places no one admitted. Thomas chose comfort over courage. The woman left with dignity and a quiet strength Henry never forgot. Time passed. The woman built a life elsewhere, had children. Those children grew and had children of their own. Henry kept track. From a distance, he never interfered, never announced himself. He sent birthday cards signed simply with his name. He showed up once to a graduation and sat in the back. He watched the great-grandchildren grow into themselves. He saw how they carried joy and fear in equal measure. He saw how they learned early to read rooms, to shrink or expand depending on who was watching. He recognized that skill. Henry spent his final years in reflection, walking his land, sorting old papers, remembering choices he made and the ones he avoided. He knew what his will would do. He wrote it anyway, back in the lawyer's office. Discomfort spreads like a slow spill. A cousin clears his throat. An aunt shifts in her chair. Someone whispers that this cannot be right. The lawyer does not raise his voice. He does not argue. He simply continues. There are letters. The room stiffens again. Each letter is sealed. Addressed by name, written in Henry's careful hand, the first letter is read aloud. Henry writes that wealth without conscience is just weight. That he watched generations protect comfort instead of character. That he chose to reward honesty, resilience, and kindness over proximity and bloodlines that forgot their own humanity. He writes that these children represent the future he hoped his family would be, brave enough to face. The children do not fully understand the words. They feel the room shift around them. They sense something important is happening. One of them squeezes another's hand. An aunt stands up. Her voice trembles as she asks why Henry never told them. The lawyer answers for him. He did. In small ways. In conversations you dismissed. In discomfort you avoided. In silences you never questioned. This becomes the first iconic truth of the story. Silence does not mean agreement. Sometimes it means preparation. The documents are clear. The estate includes land, investments, a foundation, and a trust designed to support education, housing, and community work led by the great-grandchildren when they are old enough to decide, not controlled by their parents. Not overseen by the family, protected. A cousin laughs nervously and says this will tear the family apart. The lawyer nods. Henry anticipated that. 2. Another letter is opened. Henry writes that families often break not because of loss, but because of truth. He writes that fairness feels like theft to those who have always received more than their share. The room feels smaller now, heavier. Outside, sunlight spills across the steps of the building. The children are let out first. Reporters have already gathered. Cameras lift. Questions fly. Their mother steps forward. Calm/steady. She does not gloat. She does not explain. She says only that Henry knew exactly what he was doing. That line travels far. Over the next weeks, opinions flood in. Some call it betrayal. Others call it justice. Social spaces fill with arguments. Old photos resurface. New stories emerge. People who once praised Henry now question him. Others see him clearly for the first time. The children return to school. Their lives do not suddenly become easy. Wealth does not erase stares or whispers, but it does open doors that were always locked. Tutors. Safe neighborhoods. Time to dream. The foundation launches quietly. Scholarships appear in places rarely noticed. Community centers are restored instead of renamed. Decisions are made slowly, with listening instead of announcing. The children grow. One studies law, drawn to systems and their flaws. One studies medicine, driven by a memory of a clinic that closed too soon. One studies architecture, dreaming of spaces that feel welcoming instead of cold. One studies history, determined to tell fuller stories. They visit Henry's land once a year. They walk the fields, sit under the old trees, read his journals. They understand him better with time. He was not perfect. He was not loud. He was not heroic in the way movies like, but he chose to end something instead of extending it. This becomes the second iconic truth. Legacy is not what you keep. It is what you correct. Years later, the family gathers again. Smaller now, quieter, changed. Some never returned. Some learned. Some apologize. The children stand taller, confident. A plaque is placed at the entrance of the foundation. It does not list Henry's achievements. It lists his values: fairness over comfort, truth over tradition, courage over silence. People stop and read it. Some nod. Some feel uneasy. Some feel seen. The story spreads beyond the town. Not because of money, but because of meaning. It becomes a reminder that progress does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives with a signature at the bottom of a page. In his final letter, written just days before he passed, Henry leaves one last line: "Do not thank me. Do better than me, and they do." If this story made you think, share where you are watching from. Tell us what legacy means to you. And subscribe for more stories that reveal the quiet moments that change everything.